G'day peeps, my name is Scribbs and welcome back to another speed paint. I know, it's been a month, it's almost pretty much every time I just say I'm gonna make a speed paint or that I'm gonna try to create some sort of coherent schedule when it comes to speed painting, I always tend to fall short, and I'm very sorry about that, but there's just been such a rush on with even getting regular videos lately, that I've just sort of had to prioritize, first of all, what people wanted, but also what was sort of the easiest to make with that time. And these speed paints especially, they're quite lengthy because they can take me up to many hours to create just a single drawing, depending on how many times I have to do over it. It gets very frustrating, and it's just an endeavor that I sort of have to prepare myself to do every time. But I promise I'm working on it, and I will really try my hardest, especially this year, to turn drawing into an actual thing that I do consistently on the channel. So sorry, I hope it will get better soon. But today we're doing a drawing that has been heavily requested, especially from the Project Arrhythmia community. I wonder why, because it's a character from Project Arrhythmia that people have been wanting me to humanize. A lot of people really like the sort of theme that I've been going on, or that I've kept going, with taking different character designs that are just sort of very simplistic and turn them into something that's less simplistic, based off what I've been given from this simple character design. And I've done that with a lot of Project Arrhythmia characters, and this time we've gotten to one that, once again, people have been requesting it a lot, but it's a character from OL 666 level collection called BLACKHEART, and it's the character called JESTAR. And it's also the most important one because it's the big evil villain that sort of puppeteers the entire affair, and pretty much every level in BLACKHEART is just fighting his goons until you get up to him. And he's also one of the only people, or one of the only characters that we've seen in the BLACKHEART collection that we haven't beaten yet. We fought him multiple times, but he just doesn't really seem to go down. So I knew that this one had a lot of importance with the Project Arrhythmia community, so I also wanted to execute it right. Which, by the way, since I've done two different drawings and I actually just scrapped one of them, I'm still sort of worried that I didn't do it right. Who knows, I might even go back to it and revisit it, but I did the best with what I felt I could do at this time. I kinda like the way it turned out, so hopefully you guys enjoy it as well. But right off the bat, I knew what was gonna be the main focus, or the main difference between this character design and a lot of different character designs, and that was the fact that this one was actually gonna fill out a lot of space on the canvas. And I know that might not make a lot of sense when I say that right now, but when I drew characters like Nautilus, or when I do characters like Aurora, they were sort of small, spindly designs. Nautilus was he was a bigger dude, so of course he took up more of the space, but I was so sure, the only thing that I knew right off the bat when I was gonna draw JESTAR was that I was gonna incorporate his amazing, not only technological feat from like the level editor, but just very cool design, which is his big, white, sort of crystal-like wings. That I knew right off the bat was something I was going to have to make, or I was going to have to incorporate it into the drawing, and I knew right off the bat that that might also be the hardest part about this drawing. Because, and this might not be very apparent to people who don't draw often, or kinda like have tried thinking about what an ordeal that is, but drawing a pair of wings is basically like drawing an extra pair of limbs. But not only that, they're usually freaking huge, and they take up a lot of space on the canvas, and depending on the pose, they can either look really stupid, they can look really freaking cool, or they can look really cool but also take up the entire canvas, so the main character that the wings are actually attached to can sort of fade away because the wings just take up so much of the space. You can't really even see any other details almost except the wings. A demonstration of this being actually already in BLACKHEART, as you can see the part where JESTAR folds his wings out, they take up almost twice the space that he himself takes up. So yeah, finding a pose for this was really hard, and it was actually also the reason that I sort of scrapped the first drawing, just because I wasn't quite happy with the pose. I was actually trying to go somewhere completely different, and not just draw like JESTAR. I actually wanted to draw sort of a frame from the fight against JESTAR that was sort of like caught in motion, and I can actually even pop it up here so you can see it. And while it's not that I dislike it, then I wanted the focus to really be on JESTAR and the actual humanization of it. It's not necessarily a bad drawing, but I feel like I would do JESTAR an injustice in comparison to the other characters by not having him and his humanization being the complete and only focus of this one. But moving on to the actual design that I wanted to go with, then you can see that while I made some changes, then I still sort of filled out the most that we got from the original design in the game. I was considering turning his skin into like this abyssally dark color, so he would sort of just look like a shadow person of some sort, but I felt like that would be sort of a shame because it would leave out a lot of the detail in his body, which you wouldn't be able to see because it would just be blacked out. Plus, it wouldn't really be true to the character design, since in the game he's more sort of dark grayish, while it's his armor and whatever he wears that's actually this complete black color. Now I bet you noticed the fact that JESTAR doesn't have a shirt on. And that's true, but it's not necessarily against the character design, since to all that I'm actually able to tell, that all JESTAR wears is a pair of pants, or it's basically a reverse heart, but it sort of looks like his pants, and then his infamous crown. So while the game sort of came short in terms of, well, shirts, then I actually did try going for this sort of Devil May Cry-ish angel look with him just being ripped and sort of having his shirt off. And that was probably the decision that I'm most like, is this gonna work about it? Because some people would like him to be very serious, very just cold, hard, straight to the point villain, where he would wear like probably like a whole suit of armor or something like that. Although I wouldn't even know where to start with that armor, since I don't really have anything to go off with in terms of the original design. That, and then also halfway through my thinking I realized that him having his shirt off sort of makes him look like a Chad, and if there was any character in the game, Project Arrhythmia, that would be like a ripped Devil May Cry-ish e-boy Chad, then it would absolutely be JESTAR. So yeah, I have no idea if this idea will bomb or if it will take off. You guys let me know down in the comments what you think, and who knows, if people are heavily against it, I might even come back to it and change up the design later on. But I did try to stick as much as possible to the sort of shapes that were on his pants or his pants were made off of, because once again, it's basically just this reverse heart. It's really cool shape language actually, so I did give him these sort of reverse heart-shaped chainmail, or not chainmail, plate mail on each of his thighs to sort of indicate that, or pay respect to the fact that that's part of his design. I did also give him his infamous crown, and as per the lore, there is only one of the souls in his crown yet. I think, like, as BLACKHEART progresses, he might collect more of them later on. Who knows, or maybe that's the only one he's ever gonna get, and we're gonna be able to knock it out of the crown and take it back. But this far, I do believe that he only has one crown that sort of sits on his right side of his crown. So overall, pretty happy with the design, pretty happy with the way it turned out. I think I translated it into a human pretty well. Now to talk about the things that I found pretty hard to decipher and sort of do well. And one of the things was the weird sort of gear mechanics I actually noticed. I didn't notice because I only looked at a reference, or like a picture reference of JESTAR, so that might actually be the most quote-unquote mistranslated part of him, because I do believe in the game those sort of like angular frames he has attached to him, they apparently move around during the level, which I completely forgot. And it's a real shame, because it could have made for some really freaking cool design with him having sort of like gears attached to his body, or sort of making him look like he's mechanical or something. That would actually also justify why he's sort of this grayish color. I know all the characters in the game are colored very weirdly, but it would be sort of cool if he was actually sort of a quote-unquote semi-robot. The second thing I had trouble with was whether or not if I needed to give him hair. And that's a weird problem to have, I know that, but I was actually wondering whether or not if he was supposed to be like this strong villain spirit, basically, and I was just supposed to sort of give him the crown and have him sort of like a bald evil spirit or something, but I did in the end decide to go all the way with the Devil May Cry look, and you can see it's actually kind of a last minute change, since I actually drew over a lot of my coloring in order to make the hair possible, but I just sort of decided to give him hair in order to really fulfill that Devil May Cry look. Once again, might not be the right for him, but I would rather go completely in one direction instead of having like a weird mix of the two that don't really accompany, or that don't really complement each other that well. Not my biggest regret about this design, but it's definitely one that I'm still sort of questioning even now. There was also another little issue that I had with his hands, and I actually did look this one up pretty late because I started sort of questioning it, but that's whether or not if JESTAR actually even has hands. I mean, of course he has something on his arms, but they can also look like lasers. He uses laser attacks quite often, and they actually sort of recoil almost like he's got guns attached to them, but he also pulls down columns and uses them to attack the player during a level. so I just sort of assumed that he was doing it Iron Man style, and that he actually had fingers and stuff like that, and he just sort of blasted the lasers out of his hands. But the biggest regret and the biggest fault that I made, and the biggest thing that I regret now sitting here in the vocal booth doing the different voiceover with the drawing being done, and I'm not going back to it just to fix it, but that's the fact that he doesn't, in my design, have the freaking lock. Once again, drawing the most of the design, I just looked at one picture reference, and it didn't feature the lock, the little lock he carries around with him. And it's so sad, it's so annoying, and I hate it so much because it's so crucial to the plot. And I'm very sorry about that. So let's just say that he's sort of, in the other hand, he's hiding under the wing. Let's just assume that he's holding the lock and key like right there in his hand, even though you can't see it. Let's just assume that he does that. But yeah, I'm very sorry. If I am gonna go back and revisit this drawing and maybe change up the design if people aren't happy with it, then giving him a lock is absolutely gonna be one of the big things that I know I must change. But anyways, peeps, that's about all the time that I got for this one. We've reached about the 11 minute mark, and that's about the time that I usually end these sort of speed painting videos. Although I will admit, I could probably rant about this design way more than the other ones, because unlike Nautilus, unlike someone like Aurora or any of the other guys, JESTAR has a lot of design to him. He is definitely the design that I think is the most well executed. I think he's even better than Medusa. I think he's just the best design in Project Arrhythmia, maybe, just because it has so much cool lore behind it, and he's actually one of the few characters that I'm really interested in, just from like a design basis. And he also just looks so cool every time he's on screen. So I absolutely think that that's an amazing feat by OL666. Not only not being careful to go overboard and making the level laggy in levels such as Losing Your Mind. I still think Losing Your Mind is an amazing design, but it does make the level lag, so I think that OL really balanced this really well. There are some levels that I do think lag in Blackheart, but it's very little in comparison to what I've seen before in Project Arrhythmia, so very well done on OL's part. But yeah, let me know whether or not if you like this design, how you would change it up, or how you quote-unquote envisioned him as a human. I know a lot of you guys have asked me to do this challenge, so I would just like to see and just like to hear what you guys' opinions are, and whether or not if this design lived up to your idea of him. But anyways, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Peace.